Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode. In this one we're going to be writing a simple route which will allow people to add a new to-do list, right? And we're not going to be focusing on the backend at all right now. We're just basically going to use in-memory database to kind of get things going and kind of test it out and see how it works. And then we'll add things afterwards, right? So quite simple thing, really. So we'll go into routes and create a new JavaScript file, and we'll call it to-do list route, right? This is going to be a route which will allow you to view and do anything that you want with that's related to the to-do lists, right? It's quite simple. So yeah, let's do it. Right, so I'll add a function here as usual, to-do list route, and I need express here, right? Because I'm going to define a route. And I'll go here module.exports equals to-do list route, right? Const route, router equals express.router. This is our router that we'll define the routes on, and we'll return the router at the end, just so we don't forget about it. And because to accept routes, right, we need to do a post. So this is going to be a post on slash, so because this will be attached to a route as well, this is going to be the root of it, yeah, and then we'll basically have a function for a request response, and that's it. Now that we've added the route, we need to attach it to app.js. We'll do it now just so that we don't forget about it at the end. Here again, const to-do list route equals require routes slash index to-do list route, and add a dependency to express here again, and let's bind it as well to our application. So let our application use our route, and we'll just call it list, something like that, yeah, and that works fine, I think. To-do list route. So everything will begin with list, and yeah, basically. Yeah, so that's perfect. Let's go back to our to-do list route and add something that allows people to add route. So we'll say request.body, so because this is a post, it will come from a body. So let's say the body will have a name to the list, right? So we'll call it var name equals request.body.name. What does the list have? It will have a bit of other information like description. So var equals request.body.description. What else does a to-do list have? That's it, I think. Let's keep it simple for now, yeah? Let's add a time as well. So var created on equals new date, because that's a new date. And then I'll create a to-do, right? So yeah, so let's create a model, right? So this is the function that will allow us to create the object. So let's create a directory for models. And because this is a stub model, because we'll be then attaching a database afterwards, and this is just a stub really, let's call it stub to do model, right? Yeah. And in here, let's call it a function stub to do model, which accepts a couple of arguments like name, description, and it will say this dot name equals name, this dot description equals description, and then return this. Yeah, perfect. And let's do a module.exports on that. Right, perfect. Yeah, so that looks good. Let's go back to our app.js and bind it. So let's call it. Yeah, so let's define it here because you have to define the stub model before you define your root. So we'll call it stub to do model equals require models slash stub to do model, right? Yeah, so this is a function, right? So we're not going to be execute. We won't execute it because we want the function to be as it is, so that we can, in our express root, we can then say equals new and then use the function as a class constructor, right? So let's pass that in. So stub to do model, and inside our to do list, we'll say here stub to do model, and inside here we'll say equals new. So we don't need create on for now. Let's say var to do equal list new stub to do model, and basically we'll pass in the name and description. Quickly, let me rename this thing to be stub to do list model because I've just realized that it won't work if it's stub to do because it's actually a list, right? It's not really a to do. I'm again using, I've clicked on there, I'm using Alt Shift and I'm then clicking here, and I'm using that. Yeah, and then let's call it so that this dot created on equals new date because it should manage its own thing on its own, right? Quickly go to app.js and call it stub to do list model here as well. Rename that. In IntelliJ it's Shift F6 to rename something. And it will also rename in both places. Stub to do list model, and inside our root we'll also rename it again. So again, Shift F6, stub to do list model. Right. So we need some way of storing it, right? So we could store it just in an array here, but let's actually use a service to store things. So define a service inside a folder called services. So let's create that folder. And inside that folder, let's call it new JavaScript file to do list service. Yeah. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah. Oh, need uppercase T. It's going to be a function again. List service doesn't depend on anything for now. List service, perfect. And in here we'll have one function called save. Equals function save. Save to do list. We're just going to give it a name for now. That's because there's going to be, well, actually we don't need to call it a name, but we'll give it a name anyway. And this is going to accept our new to-do list, right? So to-do list, and it will have a callback. Yeah, callback because because when we change this into something like MongoDB, it will require a callback because it's going to be a external I/O operation that Node will have to do. So we're just basically putting the callback in so that we don't have to change the method signature at the time. We just have to change the content of it to then work differently, right? So this is all in an attempt to make things flexible so that things can be changed afterwards easily. Right, so now that's done, let's return this. So return the service here, and then end that with semicolon. Perfect. And in here we'll essentially have a mock array. So let's create a mock array here. Let's var to do lists equals that, and we'll say to do lists dot push to do list, and we'll call the callback. So we'll say return callback. First argument should be an error, and then second argument should be the added list item. So yeah. So we don't have any error at this point, so let's call error undefined. And in the list that was created, let's just pass into the list, right? But there's one catch. we need to give it an ID, right? So the reason why I'm telling you for an ID is because when we use something like MongoDB, it will require us to add an ID, right? So, and it won't really require us. It has its own ID, but it's a good practice to kind of have an ID on things anyway. So when we come to using MongoDB, we won't need this, but for now, let's just add it. Right? So let's call it here. This is a module called hat, right? So hat is a npm module which allows you to generate IDs quite easily. So let's use hat for now, and in here we will call it. We'll say to-do list dot ID equals hat, right? We'll execute hat on, and hat will give us ID back, a random ID, and then we'll say push to-do list, and then we'll call back with our new list, which will have the ID. Right, perfect. So now that we've got that sorted, we need to now kind of make sure that this is bound to our app.js, and then it passes it down to the root.js. So app.js will define this. We'll define hat first, and we'll define this, and then pass the defined hat inside it, and then it will pass this instance of this inside root. So you'll see in a minute. This might be a bit confusing for now. So hat equals require hat. Oops. And then in here we'll then say that we'll create a service. So const service. Oops. To-do list service equals require services slash to-do list service, and it needs hat, so we'll pass the hat in. It doesn't work for now, as of now, because hat's not really installed, so the code won't work at all. Let's go back to here and then do, this is the git one, sorry, wrong one. Let's go here and then cancel that, and do npm install, one is going to save hat, and that should be quick. Hey, perfect. So hat's installed. Let's go back here and then to see that things are tied together perfectly. So we've got a service which has hat in it, and then we've got root with the express and the model. The model should ideally be inside the service, but let's just go with it for now. And then we need to pass the service in as well. So with the model, so let's pass the service in. It's just to-do list service. And then make sure that it's accepted inside our root. So inside here it will be a to-do list service. And now that we've created the to-do, let's call the service dot save. Save. And then pass the list in. So to-do list and a callback. Callback is going to be I don't know. Error, and then saved to-do list. Let's return on that as well, so in case you add some accidental code here, it doesn't get executed. So yeah. So if there's an error, let's just throw an error. So if error, console.error, error. So log the error and then kind of just return a 500 to the user. So return. Again, we're going to do a return here, so it doesn't execute the rest of the code here if there's an error. Else, if everything's cool, let's just send the save to-do list to the user. So return response.status to 201, which is HTTP created, and then send the object. So send save to-do list. Perfect. Right. So now that's done and dusted. Let's run it and hope for the best. npm start. I hope this works. Yay, it works. Perfect. Now, the thing is that even if we run it, we won't really see it working because we won't really see any of the to-do lists. So for the sake of this, let's just make it so that when it pushes the items to the to-do list, we just do a console.log or console.info really on to-do lists. right? Save that and then run that again. So cancel that, npm start again, and perfect. Now we're going to need something like Postman to be able to do a post, right? So Postman, and then create a new thing, get to post, HTTP. What was that? It was a list, wasn't it? Was it list or lists? Let's check that in app.js. It was list. So list, and we'll do a post on it with the body being the of JSON type. It will automatically add the header content type JSON, and here we'll have a name and description in the body. So name, my YouTube to-do list, and description. Actually, name should be YouTube to-do lists. My YouTube to-do list in the description. Perfect. Click send, and that should hopefully generate a new to-do list. Look at that. We've got an ID, we've got a created on date, we've got a description. The fact that we can see the ID means that it has reached the service. The fact that we can see the created on means that we have generated a new date. And let's go back to the terminal quickly and see what we've got. So this is our list. So in the list we've got a object of type stub to-do list model with all of these attributes on. This is amazing. So let's create another one and call it something else. So this could be housekeeping, stuff like laundry, cleaning, etc. Yeah. Click send, and that should update with 2 items. Look at that. So our first post had 1 item in it, and our second post has 2 items. This is amazing, right? So in no time we've essentially got from 0 to now having a kind of like a post endpoint for a to-do list. This is a good progress, right? This is amazing. In the next one we're going to be doing a get on this. It's going to be really exciting. So without further ado, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.